Okay, so the Rav Harvanis has a lot of chuvas over here, benogeya to our siman that we're learning in Reish Samech, something which a lot of people do not discuss really in this siman, which is the topic of mikvah, right? He has a whole section concluding this of mikvah, which we actually started last time about mikvah. So now I just want to say that I went through all these chuvas. He identifies the fact over here in his opening tshuva, which we ended with last time, which is that in the Shulchan Aruch itself doesn't talk about this mitzvah of going to the mikvah on Erev Shabbos, but from the Zohar and the Arizal, they talk about it. Now he says it's very interesting because the Magen Avram doesn't bring this. He doesn't quote this Zohar and Arizal that talks about this inyan, and the question is why not? Because a lot of times he does bring the Arizal. So this opens up a major discussion about mikvah in general. And he says that it's from the Gaonim, they already mentioned this minhag of being toivel in the mikvah on Erev Shabbos Kodesh. And then he continues to have chuvas and talks about in this shuv he talks about how a person should go out of the way to go to the mikvah, how far he needs to go, when the zman of mikvah is his next shuva. He has a lot of chuvas over here, the best time to go to the mikvah. And then he says interesting halachas in general about a mikvah for males in a place where there is no rainwater. So you could even tovel, perhaps according to some shitos, in a mikvah that is using drawn water, which is also something very interesting. So Ayin Sham in that tshuva, this is in his Chelik Aleph, for more details about being tovel in a mikvah that doesn't have regular drawn water, regular rainwater.
It's a big issue in Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah. So okay, then he talks about using perhaps being tovel in a kli. Over here he talks about very interesting in a place where you don't have the mikvah of rainwater, so a shower perhaps could have the din of Tesha Kabin, and therefore maybe that would help. He wants to say that would help for a Baal Keri, but not for Shabbos. And perhaps it would do something, which is interesting, just by a person jumping in the shower. And then he talks about when you do the rechitza panav yad v'raglav, as we already discussed, panav yad v'raglav before the mikvah, after the mikvah. Kitzur has a lot of tshuvas on mikvah and avil with the mikvah. Over here he talks about a father being toivel with his children that are ketanim to a mikvah. With his children, they're younger, going to a mikvah. So he says, even though a father, it's also for a child a certain age to shower with the father. Nevertheless, you can be makel in a sneas way in the mikvah. He goes through the whole inyan. He talks about in general halachas of sneas that are nogeya in the mikvah, and if we should be machanech our children be toivel in a mikvah. All these chuvas that he has on mikvah. All right, and that's basically, those are his chuvas basically on mikvah, putting on clothing after the mikvah, Shabbos clothing, all that. So then he's already going to other chuvas, and he's going into other chuvas. So that's where the mikvah chuva ends. And this is a very nice tshuva. We're going to learn this tshuva inside word for word. But before that, this provides the opportunity to discuss a few inyanim pertaining to mikvah, because this is something that we should know about. Okay, let's first jump to Hilchos Rosh Hashanah. These are all the places where mikvah is mentioned in Shulchan Aruch. At the end of Siman Tov Kuf Pei Aleph, which we have recordings on this siman on the website, Revlan.com. There's actually around, I think, 15 recordings on this siman. We spent a lot of time on this around 6 years ago, I want to say, maybe 5 years ago. So the Ramah at the end of this siman says, Yesh no hagin. There's a minog to be toivel on Erev Rosh Hashanah in a mikvah mishum keri. Okay? Same minog of being noig to go to kvaros. Also minog. Okay? So there's a minog. Doesn't say that there's a din. Okay? So it says already, if you can't be toivel because it's cold, so you should use Tesha Kab, and the Mishnah Berurah says. Then the Mishnah Berurah brings from the Chayodim, don't go before Chatzos during the day, Erev Hashanah. All right? And then he goes into another Indian. So the point over here is that this is another place where we see explicitly in Shulchan Aruch where mikvah is brought down, and we see that there's a minhag to do so. Okay, so there's no necessity. This is what's called a minhag. It's custom, right? Minhag, right? Okay, fine. So that's minhag to be toivel, and that's it. So there's really not much more to say. We can't come out definitively that it's a chiyuv. Yeah, Erev Hashan. Okay, now we turn to Hilchos Yom Kippur. Okay, it's been tough Reish Vav. So the Shulchan Aruch over here says, Yachol Litvol, you're able to be toivel. Villa Lilkois. This is already talking about something else. Matai Shiyurtze, you're able to get lashed whenever you want. Okay, we don't do this really anymore. This is a whole discussion of itself, why they used to do this, what the story is with this. We're actually as long as it's before night. You don't make the bracha on the tvila. So could you say from the Shulchan Aruch that it's an obligation to be tovel in the mikvah? No, he says you're able to be tovel. Erev Yom Kippur. So these are the strongest days where there's the biggest inyan to be tovel, and afal pikim we still can't say definitively that there's a chiyuv gamar. You only do it one time because avidu mishum keri, who hadin hatalas yishakabin, tes kabin could help. Nami mahani could also work. Okay, so then the Mishnah Brew over here goes into, he says you don't make a bracha because tevila zoy einerak mishum minhag. This tevila is only because of a minhag. Okay, that's the in Yud Tes. In Yud Ches, the Mishnah Brew he says you should be toivel before mincha because you're doing vidu. That's the minhag. Sas mekoyim is not doing lachar. So mafsekes. Some places do after the suda mafsekes. They should some l'chil mikipur. Mishum kari because of that reason chafal of Mishnah Brew. Therefore, one time is enough. And also, you don't need vidu. Okay, then he goes a little weiter and he says, Yesh Harmim, the reason for the Tevila is because of Tshuva, and according to that, you should be toivel thrice. Some say it's gonna get Chet Avon Pesha. Also, there's different shatim, and but this is the Indian of Tshuva. Okay, so and then he says, Magen Avram brings that even according to Laman Desvir later, Tam Tevil Mishum Kari, according to the reason for the Tevila is going to be Kari, Afilu Hachi, Sarach Tam Litpol of every Yom Kippur. You still need to be toivel on Erev Yom Kippur. Even if you're a tovel of Rosh Hashanah, carry, and you didn't see carry anymore. If you're holding that the reasoning is because of carry, so then you would need to. So you have a machlokes what this tevila is, but again, we can't come out that it's a full-fledged chiyuv to be toivel. It's a very strong minhag though to do it. Very strong minhag. It's a minhag. It's a minhag.
No, not even a mitzvah.
Okay. Whatever minhag kedin, but the point is that it's not a chiyuv. Now, the real place to look at Hilchos for these halachas of are we obligated to be toivel or not is at the end of Hilchos Kriyat Shema, right before Hilchos Shmona Esrei, Siman Peiches, which we have recordings on the entire Hilchos Kriyat Shema and Shmona Esrei on the website. Every single Mishnah Brew we did. And what does it say over here? It says these are sugis in the Gemara. Anyone who's tamei, karin b'toyer v'karin Kriyat Shema's palin, except for Baal Kari. Baal Kari is not allowed to. However, Acher Kach, in the middle of Shulchan Aruch, Bitlu Oiso Takana. They nullified, they canceled that Takana that a Baal Kari is Aser B'divrei Torah Shema and Tefillah until he's Toivel. And the reason is, by the way, Kadesh Lu Yed Talmidei Chachamim Mitzvim Etzon Hashem Targum. You don't want to be Talmidei Chachamim, they can be by their wives like chickens, constantly, whatever. So therefore they said, no, Baal Kari, he has to be Toivel. But they were Mavatel that Takana, they canceled it, they nullified it. And they said that no, even a Baal Kari is allowed to learn Torah, recite Shema, and daven without Tevila, and without Rechitza of Teisha Kabin. V'chein Pashat HaMinhag, and that's the Minhag. So we see from this Shulchan Aruch that a Baal Kari is allowed to learn Torah, allowed to do anything spiritual, Shema, Shemona Esrei, even if he wasn't Tovel in the mikvah. Okay, and this is why in the Yeshiva Shabbat a lot of people are not Tovel the entire year. Okay, Hasidim, as we know, Arfanis has the Arichos and the Shuvas are makbid to be toivel. Often, some people go every single day. People go every Shabbos. People go after Shas Ma'asim. So this is where it comes from. Mikra Adin, it's batal. Why? Why did they cancel the Takan? So the answer is in the Mishnah Brew. In Gimel. Shahaisa gezeira she'in roiv hatzibur yechoil ma'amor bo. This was a decree that most people were unable to stand up to. What does that mean? That means that most people couldn't handle this. Most people couldn't handle having to be toivel every single time they became a Baal Karet. So therefore, they nullified it. They were mevatel for two primary reasons. Number one, it was bittul Torah. It takes time to go to the mikveh. We could be learning instead. Number two, it's bittul piravia. What does that mean? People said, "Oh, if I'm gonna have to go to the mikveh every single time after, then I'm just not gonna go. It's just not worth it. It takes a half an hour to go, whatever it is. It's just not worth it." So that's why they were mevatel it. Then he says in Daled, there are Anshe Ma'isa that have the minhag to keep with the stakana, their tovel anytime. If it's very difficult, they roichis themselves minimally with Tisha Kabin. So we see from this that that this takana is was nisbatel, right? Bittul Torah, sometimes they didn't find water and there would be bittul Torah from that. Okay, I said another reason than that. It's bittul Torah to go there and back. Sometimes they would refrain from tashmish because of the tirch of the tevilah. Stories of the Mishnah Brew over here is explaining based on Rashi in Brachos on Chav Beis, which is where this sugya is. Okay, so even though Beis Din can't be mavatel, a Beis Din, another Beis Din's ruling, unless it's gadol, unless it's greater in wisdom and in numbers, nevertheless over here they were able to be mavatel over here. Why? Because this takana wasn't spread throughout Klal Yisrael, whatever that means, the Magen Avraham says. So, or it seems like a Beis Din didn't officially mevatel it. It just became batal on its own because no one was able to handle it anymore. So that's the story over here. So B'kitzer, this is a little bit of background information on something that Harvardist and some others farm talk about on this Siman Reish Samech, where the Siman is primarily dealing with, as we know, cutting nails, haircuts, and hair cutting, right? Sorry, and showering Erev Shabbos. So this is the place to talk about mikvah, and even so, Shulchan Aruch doesn't talk about it over here, but they bring it up. So now they brought it up. We wanted to bring this. At the end of the day, L'maisa, whatever a person does is legit, right? You have a basis, and you have different minhagim, and this is the story with the mikvah. Okay, to bring that up. Okay, I'm gonna try to incorporate this in the Word doc somehow, and then we'll do a final review after this one more tshuva. Okay, let's wrap up this siman that we've been on for a while with this last tshuva, which is a very interesting tshuva. Very, very interesting. This tshuva is discussing is a person obligated, a husband, a father, obligated to be in his house when his wife is lighting the neiros? Is it okay if he just goes to shul before his wife lights the Ner Shabbos? We would think, what's the problem? Okay, what about taking a nap before halakas ner, sleeping until after the zman of shkia? Okay, so this is the shayla that he addresses. I once heard someone say that the dafka shouldn't be there. So he's saying the opposite way. The opposite way, you should be there. He's saying you should be in your house when your wife lights Ner Shabbos. Now, obviously, listening to this, reading this for the first time, you'd say, what do you mean? How can I be in the house? It's too close to Shabbos, then I won't make mincha in the shul. We'll come back to that. So you should be in your house. Loi b'mikvah, loi b'beis hakneses. Not in the mikvah, not in the shul. This is the main part of the tshuva. You need to warn your wife, light in the proper zman. And you need to tell the people in your house, stop doing activities that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. Okay, so this is the main psak of the tshuva. And now in the next 2 pages, he's going to analyze this a little bit more. This idea. So he says, "L'chayra, it's not good. L'chayra lav shop your dummy sheyaktim leilach lebeis hakneses. You shouldn't walk to shul before your wife lights. Shari Takonas Chazal Shiyam Yodim B'Seich Beisa. Chazal enacted second parak Masechet Shabbos, and you have to say Hadliku as an air. You're not asking a question. It's not a question. It's a statement. Light the nair. Please light the nair if you don't light already. Shechoshu Chazal Shemachmas Ribui Tirdos Hachana Shabbos. Chazal are concerned that due to the multitude, due to the many burdens of the Hachana Shabbos, Yishkachu v'yavoyu lezacharim halakas neiros. That because a person's going to be involved with the preparations for Shabbos, a person might come to forget and delay lighting the nair on Shabbos. Okay? Alkein sarachu liyishar bebeso ad shiyiru shetadliku es haneiros bepoyel. So they said you have to remain in your house until you say that until you lit the candle. Right? In other words, person's going to be involved with Hachana Shabbos, and she might come to forget, and then she's going to light already after Shabbos, which is a major issue, as we know.
The only way you could do that is Mincha Gedola, right?
What?
The only way you could do that is davening Mincha Gedola.
Okay, we're going to come back to that. Yeah, we're going to come back to that. Not necessarily. Aval inu sarich liyos oimid etzlo b'shashi madlekes. You don't need to be standing next to her when she lights, with making sure that she lights. Right. Just make sure she's going to do it. So the Mogen Avram in Hilchus Halakas near Shabbos and Reish Samakim Sokotim Yud says that it was a minhag l'shader tinoikis l'beisim koidim she'akal makabel Shabbos lo yirias mish lo yaliku lahadlik she'asum lahadlik achar. It was a minhag. It seems like parents would send their children back home to tell the people in their house that were still involved with activities that were forbidden on Shabbos to stop that and to light the nair. Okay. Sefer Zikr Torah Moshe says l'chein yak meish l'spal mincha b'zman mincha gedola. Exactly what you just said. Very good, David. So the Sefer Torah Moshe says this is why, another reason why it's good to have mincha gedola of Shabbos Kodesh. The answer is so that you'll have time to do this. Okay. Now I'll just say right now, even if you don't daven mincha gedola, it's possible to do this. The main way, okay, so he says, hold on, we'll say why in a minute. Exactly. So he says, if you could do this in places where they daven mincha right before Shkia, aka in our shuls. So now, if you're going to need to be in your house during the time of Halakas Ner, you're not going to be able to daven mincha with the tzibur. So I would say like this, okay? Halakas Ner Shabbos is 18 minutes before Shkia. In this shul, mincha is usually around closer to 12 minutes before Shkia, 10 minutes before Shkia, something like that. So you do have a shtickle buffer. Number one. Number two is that very simple. The Zman of Halakas near Shabbos, that's not the first time you could light. That's the last time you're supposed to be lighting. Like I always like saying, Shloshim Yom Kodem Achag, learning the halachas, that's the minimum, not the maximum. Okay, you can learn way before, right? Pesach is the din of learning halachas basic, right? So that's something to talk about. So too over here, if you do it earlier, or even in shuls, you're walking distance, you don't have a problem. If you're driving, that's another discussion. Okay, now.
Wait, so you're seeing that? That's 6 minutes. That's 6 minutes is supposed to be enough of a buffer.
It's really 8 minutes. Yeah, if you live near.
And
again, you're not lighting the last possible second. You're not supposed to be doing it.
And from what we've learned too, what the Rav would say, what's a good time to, if you do daven by Shkia, what's a good time to daven before? I would say for us it's a good 15 minutes before Shkia, right? To say, give time to say Elena before Shkia, right? We should say Elena before Shkia.
Yeah, Elena, I don't think there's a din of saying Elena before Shkia, no.
Oh, fine, all right. So
no, I don't know where you got that from. Do you have a source for that? I don't know of any.
I thought, all right, fine, all right. So no, so it's only, and even the chasaras shots is not. Does that matter, or just only our own?
Should preferably be before Shkia.
Yeah, but not Elena or not Elena.
I don't know unless you have a source. I'm not aware of one.
Or Tachanun during the week.
You're not saying Tachanun Erev Shabbos. We're talking about Erev Shabbos.
During the week.
We're talking about Erev Shabbos, though.
I know. All right, fine.
Okay, fine. So it seems okay. We're gonna have to end now, but we're gonna finish this shuva tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. I would like to say that he is gonna bring up, I think over here, Be'ikar Hadavar, just skipping, the Ish Avram says, someone who knows that his wife is going to be careful with lighting in the proper time, right? This doesn't apply if you have a wife who, you know, she's always careful to light on time. This doesn't apply. We're talking about sometimes some of the wives could be maybe wait till last minute. And that's what we're talking about over here. Okay, so you have to know your wife. So that's what this tshuva is addressing. And Mr. Hashem, tomorrow we're going to finish this tshuva, and then we're going to get a full review on the simon, and then we're going to move on to the next simon. Okay.
Also, it's also too, if she hints at something, like if she's Makabel Shabbos, and then she hints to something like maybe she forgot something that you could do before Shkia. Is that possible too?
If what?
If she would hint to something, but she forgot to do something, after she lit, and she could hint to you before she.
That's correct. That's correct. She could, I think, tell you, because
is that okay?
No problem being a shmashos, yeah. If it's a makom mitzvah, yeah. Shulchan makom mitzvah.
She could tell you to.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're gonna come back to that in another simon. Okay, so everyone should have a great day. Welcome to you.
So Mashma.
All right, have a good day.
No, I mean, it's just I shouldn't say it's just a minute. It's not right, but it's only a minute to go to the even on Erev Yom Kippur.
Even on
The
Erev
same
Yom
thing in
Kippur.
Tisha B'Av, you could be Yosef with it, you know.
The what?
And in terms of the mikvah on Erev Yom Kippur,